Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited you're joining us today because we are looking at a piece of writing that does something honestly quite rare. Normally when we read a memoir, we're basically looking through a window into someone else's life, right? We're just observers. But today, we are exploring a memoir that takes that window and at the very last second, flips it into a mirror, reflecting straight back at you. Get ready, because this is going to be a seriously fascinating journey.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think about it for a second. How should a memoir end? If you think about most of the books you've read, they usually tie up all those loose ends nicely. The author finds peace, the journey wraps up, and you close the book feeling totally satisfied that their story is resolved. But the source material we are unpacking today absolutely refuses to do that. Instead of wrapping everything up with a neat little bow, it leaves you wide open.
Just listen to this striking question pulled directly from the final pages of the book. What part of your life feels ready for a new chapter? It's a completely unique hook, isn't it? The author isn't making some final, profound statement about themselves here. They are actively interrogating you, the reader.
The book we are exploring is Meerut to Milan via Paris by Pushkar Jangid, which traces the journey of our narrator, Aarohi. And what makes this text so powerful is how incredibly unusual it is for a narrator to just pass the torch to the reader right at the finish line. I mean, from a reader's perspective, have you ever seen a book end quite like this before? It literally transforms your reading experience from passive observation into an active, almost demanding challenge.
On one side, we've got the girl from Meerut. She's trapped by fear, trembling at the counter, constantly asking, can I and should I at every single turn. But then, on the other side, we have the liberated woman she becomes in Europe. She's walking alone, she's shedding that constant need for permission, and she is finally finding her wings. The emotional distance she travels between these two states is just vast.
Let's focus briefly on the Paris catacombs, because this was a massive turning point. Aarohi descends into this dark, claustrophobic ossuary filled with nameless skulls. It's intense. She confronts the heavy, absolute fear of death and insignificance down there. Her legs are burning, she's gasping for air, but when she finally climbs those 112 exit steps back into the bright sunlight, she emerges feeling lighter. It's like the darkness actually cured her fear of the shadows.
So the crucial point is how she internalizes these experiences. By the end of her travels, she realizes each city has permanently carved a very specific lesson into her spirit. Switzerland taught her stillness when fear climbed high. Florence taught her the discipline of grace. Verona showed her timeless tenderness. Milan gave her the strength to walk tall. And Paris? Well, Paris taught her how to burn, rise, and begin again. All of these incredible European lessons culminate beautifully with the birth of her daughter, Mira. There is this incredibly moving moment in the text where newborn Mira's tiny hand rests perfectly on an old burn mark on Aarohi's hand. You see, once that mark was just a symbol of sharp, humiliating pain. But in this moment, looking down at her daughter, Aarohi realizes that the mark is proof of every single city that shaped her. Her past pain has literally been stitched into her daughter's future wings.
And here is the promise she makes to her daughter. I want both of us to grow free. Free from fear, free from permission. She has finally broken the cycle. Let's move to and see how this builds right back to that completely unconventional ending we saw at the start. Because Aarohi successfully found her wings and conquered her fears down in the catacombs, she's essentially earned the right to stop talking about her journey and turn the lens directly onto you. Again, think about this from a reader's perspective. You've spent all these hours absorbing her life, reading her story, and suddenly the book looks up and addresses you directly. It's wild. The text asks you flat out, do you feel your story is still at the beginning or somewhere in the middle? It forces you to pause. It creates this really intimate, quiet room where it's just you and your own reflection. Where are you in your own timeline? And then it challenges you even further. Is there something you've been wanting to try but waiting for the right moment? Think about Aarohi hesitating before tasting her very first beer in Berlin, her hands literally trembling, or her fear of stepping into a taboo lingerie shop in the Paris night. She took those steps despite the fear. The book is now asking, what is your version of that hesitation? What exactly are you waiting for?
And this brilliantly illustrates what the author is ultimately trying to achieve here. What quietly moves forward as you close this book? What are you carrying with you? This proves the book functions way less like a standard travelogue and entirely as a catalyst for your personal growth. It doesn't want you to just applaud Aarohi's courage. It wants you to find your own.
And so, I am going to leave you with the exact same provocative thought that the text leaves its readers. Now that you've seen what it takes to shed the heavy weight of permission and fear, when you sit back and listen carefully to your own life, what is your next step? Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and I genuinely hope this sparks your own next great chapter.